Everybody, it's Andrew's Weather Predictions here. Today we're going to be talking about upcoming very active severe weather pattern here across the plains for once, and even into Dixie Alley and the Ozarks. We will briefly touch on winter weather here along the video path. As you see here, we have a lot of winter weather advisories and warnings and watches across the Rockies and into California. We have freeze watches in here. We have fire danger, wind advisories, special weather things in there, special weather statements, and hazardous weather outlooks in there. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the Weather Prediction Center here. We'll first start off with the overview. Nothing's really going to be happening. Not nothing, but day 2, no severe weather, just some thunderstorms across many areas. Day 3, we're going to have isolated severe weather in the pink area right in here. Maybe a bit further, I could extend it a bit further to the west as well. We also may have severe weather in these areas, a bit uncertain whether or not we get enough moisture up there. Here's the future radar, potentially, or not the future radar, here's the future precip and hazard, so there you go. Then Thursday, we could have an isolated severe risk in that red hatched area, and a little bit further south in these areas as well. Day 5, we will have a severe weather risk across to this area. Now, it's looking kind of meh, because I've looked at the models already, and I'm not too sure if it really deserves a 15%. But we'll look into more models, and I might be able to change my opinion at the end. Day 6, I think it deserves a 15%. Well, in this 15% is in here, a very large area. Might be a little bit too big. Day 7, we have a severe weather risk across this area as well. And even into day 8, I will not be surprised if Dixie sees a 15% in upcoming days if models keep on trending. Let's go over to the Storm Prediction Center. This is where our business is going to be done. We have a marginal risk across Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, a little bit of Nebraska, and a sliver of Iowa. Primary threats will be large hail, damaging wind, and you can't rule out brief tornado, and structure will be amazing this day if we get storms in Kansas and Oklahoma to form before sunset or at sunset. Day 4, predictability too low. Like I said, isolated severe thunderstorms are possible in this area, or actually more like this area from the overnight leftover convection. You're possible to see some severe weather in there. It's going to be mainly isolated though. Day 5 is where there is a risk for scattered severe thunderstorms in the eyes of the SPC. And then across Oklahoma, a sliver of Arkansas and Missouri. In Texas, we also have a 15% risk on day 6 across Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas there. And then day 7, this might be our worst day. This could be our worst day. It's still a bit far out to tell, but Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas are all in the risk area. Primary hazards for days 5 and 6 are going to be scattered large to very large hail, isolated tornadoes, and isolated wind gusts. Day 7, scattered damaging winds, isolated tornadoes, isolated to scattered large hail as well. Day 8 is predictability too low. SPC does mention that we could get a 15% risk on day 8 as well. Here's the analogs for like day 4 through 5, or day 3 through 8. These are kind of what from past experiences, what weather could be like, so something to watch here. I was looking at the event on my own time from the Euro, but why don't we start off with the Euro here? Let's go out from starting around 66 hours. We're not going to be using the Euro to talk much about this upcoming severe event for tomorrow and Wednesday, but it's going to be more or less, we're going to be talking about it for the long range. So here is day 4. We start to see some thunderstorms kind of die across central Illinois overnight. They reform a little bit, and then the next day we get some warm front convection in Oklahoma, to potentially fire off on Friday. And boom, we get some. Actually, the Euro's showing discrete supercells at 0Z, which is interesting. Then we get still have some subs. Then Saturday we start to see some winter. We start to see a winter storm on the back end. We could see winter weather in northwest Oklahoma and severe weather in western Oklahoma. That's going to be something interesting to watch. Move along with the night. We see a nasty squall line develop around 12Z, and look at that at 18Z. Look at how nasty this is. Very nasty squall approaching kind of those areas right where that 15% risk is outlined. 0Z, we start to see that squall line still continue. 6Z, it still continues strong. I would not be surprised if the Storm Prediction Center gets enough confidence to extend that 15% across this area a bit further east, because right now it's a bit to the west, and then still ongoing across Illinois into Mississippi. The next day, we start to see convection bubble across Alabama right in here. We start to see this low bomb out, and this is going to be a very large-scale system. It's going to be able to pull that Gulf moisture up and give enough instability for some strong to severe storms. 0Z, we don't see as much convection. It's mainly limited at this point to in here and in here and in here. 6Z, there's not much convection. But the next day, we could have another severe event with this low pressure. This is a lot farther out, but we could have another severe event with this convection in here. Something we need to watch closely, because if this happens, then we're going to have a very active period. The Euro ends up showing that, which is a bunch of supercells, which is very interesting. Let's go into your dew points here. Let's see here. So here's Thursday. Friday, we have that severe risk in here at this point. Then Saturday, there isn't that much dew points that have reached up to Kansas. We'll see if we get any instability to reach up there. And then Sunday. This is the day I'm really watching. And if we go along, here's Monday, we get that moisture pull again. And then we still have leftover moisture. That's a lot of moisture left over, which is not good. We still have more moisture, and we still have more moisture from this, so we need to watch that. Let's go into our middle level jet energy, which is 500 millibars. So here is this upcoming shortwave trough here. On Friday, you can see here we have enough jet energy across Oklahoma and Texas to give off a small severe risk. Then Saturday, the energy really starts making it over there. We start to see more energy get over. I won't be surprised if the risk on Saturday is like this tomorrow, something like that, because you're going to have a lot of jet energy to work with across the western Texas panhandle. And then Sunday, we start to see a lot more middle-level jet energy work, and here's this very strong wind field comes across. We still have pretty high middle-level jet, but it does weaken a bit. And then we have that next system coming on later next week, and it still rallies up some big wind shear. Oops. We look at the 850 millibar winds. See here, there's our 850 with that event. Moves up north. Here's Friday. There's a little bit of 850 millibar winds, but not that much. A little bit across this area. Saturday, there is a lot more, so we'll have more of a tornado threat. Sunday, we'll have more of a tornado threat as well. Into Monday, we will still have a tornado threat. Maybe, who knows, we'll see. Still a severe and tornadic threat with this system too. Now let's go into more detail here. Let's take some soundings for Friday at 18Z. Let's go into the South Central region. We'll take soundings with the preset mode here. Okay, so this is not really showing much. So we'll go to 0Z and take some. So at 0Z, we have a bunch of raging storms here. Boom. It's not a very good environment. That really won't support too much. Boom, northern Texas. Not a good environment. We're not going to go into that sounding. That's still not a good environment. So far the soundings I'm pulling for this is not... Okay, this is a sounding that's not terrible. You have a well-rounded hodograph, veered winds in the lower levels. You have a lacking lower-level lapse rates, which will be a problem, so that's not good, but it's a slight cap at the surface, right around 850 millibars, and we have some instability that's decent. Let's take something like 62, because why not? When stuff starts to grow upscale on Friday, which means starts to, from a supercell mode, it starts to go into a linear mode. Let's take a look at Western Texas here. That's not bad. Maybe we could take some soundings in front of this convection, like right here. Not very good. I'm kind of surprised that they put a 15% if you're strictly looking at the euro. Okay, Saturday, right in south central Oklahoma. That's elevated north of the warm front. Okay. Northern Texas. That's right on the warm front. Yeah, that definitely supports a severe risk. We do have a slight cap of the surface, which could keep storms discreet. A lot of 0 to 3 kilometer veering. A pretty good hodo with above 90 kilometer or above 90 crit angles, which I haven't seen in a while. We'll go to 0Z here is when this low starts taking shape here. We have some squall line up for Texas here. That's kind of okay environment in front of it, kind of capped, about right there. Yeah, that's kind of capped. Okay, a bit elevated. What about southern Texas on the Red River? Okay, it's just a bit elevated here, but it's still surface rooted. Pretty good hodograph again. Good wind shear, so we're gonna have that at play. Lower level instability is actually kind of good. Oh, look at northern Texas right there. Another good sounding there with the middle level dry slot. That's very supportive for severe weather. That's north of the warm front. We're about in front of this convection, like right on Oklahoma City. Yeah, that's in front of the warm front. Okay, what about like right here? Nope, that's behind the warm sector. Okay, like right here. Oh, whoa. Okay there. This is actually a very good sounding. Oh, I clicked out of it, darn it. Okay, boom. We're gonna copy this because this is a very good sounding. Whew. You have a very good hodograph. Veering is very good in the lower levels. You have surface-based storms. You got some good lapse rates, and you have good instability with your Cape values and lapse rates very favorable. Now we get to start to see a very well organized squall line, and the environment in front of it's favorable, but there's not as much instability due to the fact that it's midnight at this point. Right on Oklahoma City, yet again, no instability. Kind of like down here. It's still so at this point. I'm gonna cherry pick a sounding. This won't give you a great representation of the environment itself, but yeah, this is not a good environment at 6Z. 12Z, we start to see this squall line kind of come back together across central Texas with a favorable environment for wind gusts and tornadoes in front of it. You take more central Texas, it's not quite made it to the warm sector. This is when the line really starts maturing. South central Texas, favorable for wind gusts mainly, maybe some hail embedded with it. Right in front of the line right here. Okay, so this is favorable for tornadic activity and wind gusts. Right here, that's a wonky hodograph. This would probably be favorable for tornadoes and wind gusts. Right about right here. Okay, that's a very good sounding. What about like right here, or in front of this? What about? Let's analyze this sounding right here. Oh my good lord. Okay, I was not expecting to have an analyze this. So we have a very large hodograph, surface-based storms, a dry slot in here creating some instability, veered winds in the lower levels. You can see that right here. High lapse rates, high instability, little to no capping inversion. This is a very well-rounded sounding here. Texas 18Z Sunday. Okay. Wow. What about south central Oklahoma, right in front of that low? So that's going to be where you're not going to see very much of a favorable environment for tornadic storms and severe storms in general. because you're right on the warm front there. At 0Z here, we start to see this line bow out more across Arkansas. At this point, we'll probably see more of a wind risk. As you can see, the wind profiles are unidirectional, which means there is no veering. We will still have that brief risk for embedded tornadoes, but at this point, it's lower, more of a wind risk. We could see something. Okay, that's a hodograph and a half, but that's got no instability. North central Louisiana. Let's take a look at that. So at this point, the warm sector gets smaller, and the chance for tornadic activity decreases. Let's take a sounding in south central Alabama right here for the next day. So this is the next day. You have a very good mid-level dry slot here, favorable for some instability to get up there. We have some veering in the lower levels. That'll create potential for some supercell storms. We have a large enough hodograph for tornadic activity. And what about more central, not Arkansas, Alabama, excuse me. South central Alabama right there. That's got no instability with it, so that's not worth analyzing. That's a pretty good sounding here. It's got enough instability with it to create tornadic activity. We're not really going to go in depth with that next system. I might take a sounding or two, but don't really go off of this much. Yeah, this is a very good sounding, but it's far out, so we're really not going to look at soundings much for this next system. Why don't we go into the rain amounts with these upcoming systems, because that's something major. We'll go to the 24 liquid amount here. So maybe we'll get some supercell tracks. So I'll depict if we have some supercell thunderstorms here. Right here. Here's some supercell tracks from in Kansas and Missouri with this event. That's favorable. That means that we had some discrete supercells form. Okay, so Friday looks like it mainly. So Friday had maybe some supercell tracks. Let me go back here. Yeah, that might have been some those are some supercell, potentially some supercell tracks, but mainly more of a wind risk there. Wow, that's a lot of rain in a 24-hour period in Oklahoma. Let me measure that. 5 inches. Whew. A lot of heavy rain is likely across the south. If we take a look at the whole Euro run here, we go all the way here. Whoa. So everywhere in here is going to have a big flooding risk with this. We're going to also look at the snowfall totals with the Kachira method. So the Euro is only showing a little bit of snow for the Midwest, while the GFS, if I go over to that, the GFS is showing a ton of instability, and we're going to go over to the GFS here. I'll go to 240 mark, and it's showing a ton of snow happening in the Midwest, like it's showing Colorado getting 4 feet. It's showing my dog is very bad right now. She's barking a ton, but sorry about that. But showing a lot. It's also showing the rainfall being further south, and I feel like the GFS might be an outlier for this next system because most models are agreeing with the majority of the precip being with the majority of like the big thunderstorms being further south. So we'll see. We'll kind of analyze what the GFS is showing. So we're just going to go ahead here. So at this point, yep, it shows that severe threat across Oklahoma, Kansas, into Illinois the next day. Shows Friday with the bit of severe threat in Oklahoma with that, and then Saturday. The GFS is showing the system moving a little bit too fast, more fast than the Euro, which is very interesting. And then it shows that other system shows it doing interesting things. Why don't we look at the warm sector? The ET&Z run might have actually loaded here too, so we'll have to take a look at that. So there's the warm sector with it. It fades a lot more quickly. Whoa, 60 degrees up in Illinois. I'm gonna go check a sounding right in my area and see if this is anything interesting. Whoa, that's actually a severe risk and a half there. That will bring potential for tornadic activity, wind activity, and tornado activity. Very interesting. Thanks for that, GFS. I would take a chase day. What about Central Indiana? Yeah, showing similar things. We're gonna have to watch that for Midwest people if this keeps here. let's look at the GDPS for a little bit, and then we gotta move on. So the GDPS shows some risk across Oklahoma with that. Shows Saturday. Also, okay, it's agreeing with the Euro on Sunday with that moisture pool. Holy cow. I'm cherry picking a sounding right now. Okay, yeah, that's not that bad. But that's not great either. Let's go on to the GEFS here, and then we gotta go on to the what do you call it? We're gonna go into Weather Bell and look at the Euro. So the model, okay, so the GEFS is now showing a lot of supercell composite numbers being a lot higher. Very interesting. It's showing numbers in between 4 and 6 or 4 and 7 with max of 6. Showing an event up in Illinois too. Interesting. So here's Friday. It shows values around 1 to 2. Saturday it shows 1 or so, and then Sunday it shows 1, not even 1. I'm gonna go briefly look at the NAM on here for this event over here. So it does show convection forming. Why don't we look at the instability here for a short second? We have a capped warm sector, but there is a lot of instability with the NAM. Let's take a sounding out in front of some of these storms quickly. 0Z here, that's probably some not morning convection, but convection that's not needed. What about our right here? We're gonna take a sounding there, and then we're gonna move on to the NAM nest here, and we're going quickly because I'm trying to get into something else here. NAM nest shows some thunderstorms erupting right around 23Z with maybe a supercell there at 4Z. So the NAM sounding, this is going to be very capped, not that supportive for tornadic activity, mainly wind and hail. If the cap were to break, though, you would see tornadic activity being possible. The NAM nest sounding in front of that supercell there, this is going to load. That's north of the warm sector. I'm going to see how much instability you get up there. Let's take a sounding in the middle of this Cape Ball, and I know this is cherry picking a sounding, but we're going to move on here. This is not going to be the best representation of the environment ever, so I will probably have a more detailed update on this severe weather risk in tomorrow's Roger clips here. Yeah, this is going to be a bit elevated. You really don't have you have high lapse rates, which could break the cap, but you have a high capping inversion, man. Very good photograph, though. So to support tornadoes with the capping inversion would break, but let's move on to the instantaneous flash rate, which is probably what some of you guys have been looking at here. This is going to measure the lightning. So we have some lightning along the warm front on Iowa that morning with the 12Z Euro. We could definitely see some stronger storms with that. And then in the evening hours, we start to see some convection bubble across Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas. Quickly dies, and then we have a squall line form across Iowa with discrete supercells start to form across this area. And then we have a very high amount of lightning activity in central Kansas with some of these supercells that form. We have a QLCS behind the storms, and then they really start to grow upscale and merge, and there's still a ton of lightning. Into Illinois, you get a lot of lightning with that as well. Some of those could be strong to severe storms. Then on Friday, we start to see some convection bubble across Oklahoma. 21Z, we see a lot of that, and look at that, some strong to severe storms fire along the Red River Valley. And as we move into the late night hours, they dive southward. Look at that lightning activity with that. Saturday, we start to see some thunderstorm activity right around here. Look at all that lightning in there. Lots of heavy, heavy lightning activity. Move on to 0Z here. Still very heavy, especially in Texas. Look at that. That area could have some severe risk as well. We'll have to see about that. We still get some lightning, but 18Z, man. This is when the severe risk picks up for this area right here. Look at that. That's a nasty squall. 0Z, it's still pretty bad in Houston and Shreveport. Look at that off the shore, man. Vibing. Then we have a little bit less lightning at this point. And this is where it gets a bit further out, but the Euro is showing a lot of heavy lightning. But that'll do it. If you live in this area over the next week or so, pay attention to the weather warnings that you get, because that's gonna really help you out there. Um, Pay attention to the weather warnings, the advisories, the outlooks, the watches you get put under. Make sure to have a plan. Be ready. I will see you in the next one, though. Goodbye.